Tyler with TJ Survival Dispatch. I want to talk a little bit about backpacking, backpack selection, and how to load your backpack. I've been trying to focus on a lot of the basic skills in the beginning because we all could use refreshers, and it's such a large channel that there's a ton of people that are coming here for first time information. A lot of people ask questions like, what knife should I buy? Or what backpack should I buy? What they're really asking, or what they really should be asking, is what knowledge set should I have in order to make an informed decision on the backpack that would be the most appropriate for me? So what I'm trying to do is to teach a little bit about the packs, the attributes, how to make a decision so that you can decide what's best for you and your situation, your geographical location, instead of just going and buying the backpack that I have. Okay, I've got a couple of options of backpacks that I use. It's not all of my bags, it's just the ones that I have in the garage. And I've got an ultralight one here. This is a Seek Outside ultralight backpack. This is a military rucksack that I use, which is made by Tactical Tailor, Gray Ghost. This one's a Caramore SF backpack. They're kind of military type backpacks. Let's talk about military versus civilian for a second. Civilian tends to be lighter weight, more colorful, and less robust. Military tends to be more robust, heavier, and a variation of camouflage. So if you're looking for a bug out type of bag, this is kind of the direction I like to go. It is a military bag, but it's an OD green, so that it's still camouflage, but it doesn't look camouflage, so it's still a green type of color. I like to use OD green, coyote tan, those type of colors, because you'll be more camouflage, but you won't be walking down the street in a city camouflage, if that makes sense. So it's a good trade-off in the middle of there. The rucksack I've got, and I'm going to talk about briefly, but we're not quite going down the military path. So the one that I use the majority of the time is this guy right here. If you watched any of my hunting videos I did this last month, I was using this backpack. This backpack is the Seek Outside backpack. It is extremely light. It's a lightweight backpack, but that makes it extremely expensive as well. This one is very robust for an ultralight pack or a lightweight pack, but it's still a lightweight pack. The problem with removing material is if you remove enough material, it's not as robust. I don't plan on throwing this out of the back of a Blackhawk while I'm flying and then jumping on it and floating on it down a river. I could do that with this rucksack here, but this one is also substantially heavier than this one. This is the one that I'm going to be backpacking in the Uintas with a minimal amount of kit that I can take my tent and sleeping bag out and then tighten this down and just use it as a day pack, which is what I did this last month. So this is, because the majority of the things I'm doing is that, this is the type of pack that I like to use. We'll talk about the military one for just a sec. So this one is a military frame pack. It has a frame like the old Alice pack. The reason why we use frames is that there's twofold. One of them is it gives your backpack frame, the frame gives it rigidity, it gives it strength. It also separates the load off of your hips a bit and kind of carries them up. What that does is it gives you air so that you can breathe. Like these were jungle packs, that's what they were used for. You can take the frame out of it, but then you've got this material up against your back making you sweat. The other thing about a frame too is that when you put very heavy or very awkward shaped loads like a 5-gallon can of water or rocks or whatever craziness that you're carrying, when you have a frame that pulls that load off of your hips, what it does is it puts the load on your shoulders and cams them against your hips instead of slopping down your body. And you can more comfortably carry a heavy load. The other thing, when you're carrying a load, you don't ever want it to be sloppy. You don't want it to flop around or shift. So if you have a frame, you can lock it down tight and hard, and then as you move, it will be more steady and stable. The body input that you give to your backpack will be more steady, and it won't flop and slap and hit and knock you around. I'm going to talk about adjusting a backpack in a minute, but one way to tell if your backpack is adjusted properly is to run with it. If you run and it slams you because it's slopping, or it whacks you because it's sloppy in the back, you need to tighten it up. You need to lock your load down so that after you've walked 20, 40, 50 miles, the sloppiness doesn't beat you to death. It doesn't mess up your joints, hurt your back, cause blisters on your hips. So it's extremely important to load it properly, load it tight, keep it from slapping around, and keep it from flopping. The military backpack I've got here, like I said, Tactical Tailor Grey Ghost. It's a very large rucksack that we use in the military. I have it for military purposes. I added this high-speed gear liner piece here. This is basically just like an internal strap that goes onto your frame that still has aeration, and it just makes it a little more comfortable, and it adds a couple of bags into the side of it. It's a little strange, but the reason why I like these bags is because it's a good place to stick your rain gear. It's a good place to stick a wool jacket, a wool sweater, whatever you're wearing, so that you have quick access to it. You can pop it out and throw it on real quick, and it's just a more comfortable way to carry the load. Like I say, because this is military, we're going to be carrying heavy batteries, we're going to be carrying tripods, lasers, all sorts of random crap, radio sets, and our personal gear and ammunition, and we just keep loading that up. And if I have body armor, I take this piece off because then my back plate will just fit right in here in the void that this is currently filling against the frame. So military packs are great if you're going to abuse the crap out of it. If you want to put a waterproof bag inside of it, you can float on the pack on a river, you can throw it out of slide it down a mountain, whatever it is. For the most part, they handle that kind of abuse. But they're heavy, and they become a blood tick if you pack them around too much. So if we take it from military, we dial it down a level to half military, half civilian. That's when we run into a situation like this Caramore SF bag. The main reason I use this bag personally is for winter stuff. The problem when it comes to exposure is you really just need more clothes. You either need more clothes or heavier tents or a stove, that kind of thing. So if you're carrying more, you need more space. This bag has side zippers that will just make it expand and expand, and this thing will get so big that I can take way more than I need to take, which in the winter time, especially when it's extremely cold, is a positive situation, because then I can put a double layer winter huge sleeping bag in the bottom. I can put an extra insulation layer for top and bottom in the side of here, and then I can throw my tent and my stove. In fact, my tent's sitting right here. This is a 8-man teepee. It's a Seek Outside 8-man teepee. This is 2 fire stove kits. It's an ultralight titanium stove. It's the one that I used in the hunting video we did last month. I have a couple variations of it. This is a little bug out tent that I had in the hunting video. Stakes, poles, that kind of stuff. But because it's primarily just a cloth, it'll fold up right small and tight. And the only concern I have is the stovepipe for these Seek Outside tents. It's round, right? And you don't want to crush it. So my solution to that is just leave this on the outside. And again, it's not super heavy, but that's the way to carry the stove. Here's my shelter. This right here is the this is the poles, but the rest of this just compresses down super, super tight in the same way that a sleeping bag does. So that's what I'll use for winter. A lot of food, a lot of stuff. It's going to be a lot heavier, but I'm not going to freeze. That's why I have that one. So going back to civilian, if you will, ultralight. This was multi-cam because it was a prototype. They come in different colors. I don't really care what the color is so much. It's just one I got. This is the, when I'm packing this pack, I will load my sleeping bag, randomness, heavy stuff on top, quick access stuff. In the middle with my randomness is where I'll put my tent or a hammock or whatever I'm going to use. And then this external bag, I will put the stove that I use and then close that shut. So we've talked about military packs, kind of military packs, civilian packs with military colors. Okay. I want to talk about this one. If it's summertime, I use this more than any other backpack. And I have a waterproof bag that I keep inside of it so that when it's time to go, I can just drop what I need in this waterproof bag and it will slide down simply inside of here. And then if I'm in the canyons or at a river or whatever, I don't need to worry about a water crossing or falling in the water or dropping it in the water, because all of my sleeping stuff that covers me at night will stay dry. My clothes will be dry. When I was in the jungle, I had 3 dry bags inside the large compartment, and I would put like my sleeping clothes inside of there. I would put the internal workings of my hammock and my 1 jungle sleeping bag in the dry bag, and or in the 3 dry bags. I would put food in another one, a couple stuff that I wanted to stay dry, and then I would put stuff like the tarp that is constantly wet goes in the outside pocket. My wet walking clothes that you swamp every day, they go in another outside pocket, and then that way if I tripped and fell in a river or whatever, if it starts to rain heavy and I don't have time to put a poncho on, the outer stuff can get wet. I'm not going to sweat that. And then that inner dry bag stuff can just stay dry no matter what the situation. They make a couple different variations of dry bags. I'll talk about that real quick. These are Ortlieb. They sponsored me in the jungle. This is a thin, very lightweight dry bag. It is made for the purpose of being inside of a backpack. There are heavier dry bags. This is a dry bag backpack, which is a little overkill. I'll use this for canyoneering or rafting and stuff. But as you can see, it's thicker and heavier. I don't want to slam this down inside of that one. But just kind of some quick information on if you want to carry the dry bag as a backpack, they make a thicker, heavier version of it. If you just want a dry bag that goes inside of your backpack, get the lighter weight one, because it's just there to keep your material dry, not to take abuse and abrasions. So moving up with this one, what I will usually do, like if I'm teaching a survival class or helping them teach a survival class or whatever, I will have a medical kit on top. In the middle, I will have a giant tarp that I can throw out that will be a rain stopper for multiple people with cords already attached to it, so that if we're walking along and even though it's summertime, a hailstorm decides to happen or a quick snow, rain nastiness moves in, we can just pop this thing out real quick, put strings up, I'll huddle underneath it, start a fire, and have a little microclimate that'll keep us dry. Of course, that medical kit is on top because when you need a medical kit, you need it right now. And then the things that I'll strap to the outside are the things that I need constantly, or the things that I need quick. Right here I've still got, these are kind of permanent. There's 2 lighters with tinder in the form of a rubber bike tire, so that, and they're clear so that I can tell how much fluid's in there. So if we need a fire quick, I can chop a piece of that off, hit it with the lighter, and just start throwing sticks on and have a fire quick. You can add wet fuel if you want, however you want to do it. And sometimes I will throw a 3rd lighter inside the dry bag in the back. The reason why I'll throw that 3rd lighter in the dry bag in the back is because it's just an extra spare, you know, makes your problems go away. I'll put some sort of food in here. I'll put a satellite texting device for emergency use and a knife. That's really about all that I'll use on the front. This backpack is Ultimate Direction Fast Pack for running. So I really like the ability to lock everything down, and if I want to jog for 5-10 miles that day to get to my location, I can jog without it slapping or wrecking me. So that's probably the lightest fast packing version that I've got. I'll talk about this real quick. People are always wondering what these straps are for. They're for an ice axe. So what you'll do is you'll run the ice axe through here and then just bring it right up to the top. You can use them for running poles too, or trekking poles. These are running poles. You can use them for running, trekking, skiing, whatever. You'll basically put your basket through the loop on the bottom and then put your strap on the top, and then you've got quick access for them. These Ultimate Direction packs come with straps that you can do on the outside, on the shoulder straps as well. Some running backpacks have, some ultra marathon backpacks have the ability to carry the straps right there as well. It's basically this strap right here and that strap on the bottom. I don't use poles often. The reality is if I'm using poles like this, it's because I'm hiking extremely steep terrain, carrying a heavy load, or I'm skiing. Some people use them when they run. I just don't need to do that. So that's the lightest weight version that I'll use. If I know I'm going to go into some really inclement weather when I'm using this lightweight one, I will either put a hammock with an extra large top on it so that I can just put everything underneath it, or I would get one of my, if I'm going to be on the ground because there's no trees in the desert sometimes, and I still need a stove or a microclimate, I'll grab my Seek Outside little bug out shelter with the stove, and I'll carry that in this. And then the smallest sleeping bag I have is the Snug Pack Jungle Pack. It's only this big. It weighs less than a hammock. So a hammock and a jungle pack in this bag, and you're sleeping in comfort wherever you go as long as you have trees. If you don't have trees, you got to be on the ground. You're going to want to use a bivy shelter or ultralight tent of some sort. I like the Seek Outside ultralight stuff. And that's what I use in the hot summer. Okay, let's talk about how to load the pack and then how to adjust it appropriately. I'm gonna start with this one because it's right here on top. So, loading a pack is pretty universal. There's only really 3 things you need to remember: heavyweight things, medium weight things, and lightweight things. And then, really in addition to that, you don't want anything stabbing you in the back through your bag. And you need everything to be tight. So, if I'm going to load this, I'm always going to put my sleeping bag in first. That's going to go on the bottom. It's the most fluffy and the most voluminous stuff. If I'm not bringing a sleeping bag, my tent will go down there, okay? Or my clothes, if I have extra clothes, or packages of food, all right down in the bottom. The more heavy items, you're always going to want them to be loaded in the middle of your shoulder blades or up here on top, okay? The reason we want to do that is because you don't want heavy weight slapping you in the hips as you walk, okay? You want it in the middle part where it's pulling your shoulders back to make you stand, and that frame, even if it's an internal frame, will push against your hips. You really want as much load on your hips as humanly possible. The way that happens is you put the load on the top of the frame, and the frame pushes it down to your hips and takes that load off your shoulders. If you're wearing heavy load on your shoulders every day, it pushes your spine, it exhausts you, it wears you out. It takes a lot of work to carry stuff on your shoulders, even though that's where we're putting the load. So again, put the load at shoulder width so that the frame will transfer that weight to your hips. Okay. And then the last thing, if I've got something like a sleeping pad or a poncho that is either awkwardly shaped and light or something I need to access quick, that's going to go right here on the very top. So right there in the middle. So recap: sleeping bag, soft items, boots or water, or heavy batteries or whatever, all last right here on the top. And then what's happening is that weight is going to pull against these straps and push it to my hips. Okay, so let's talk. Oh, then also right here on the very top, this is the place that I'm going to put stuff that I want quick. So if you've ever been in really deep snow, you don't want to step off the trail and sink up to your waist just to pull your bag off and grab that Snickers bar or whatever, right? So if you want something quick or you need some access without digging it, that's what you're going to put on the top. I'll put a GPS device up there, a cell phone, a battery. I'll put food. I'll put a lighter, just all those little jangly things right up on top. And one thing that is super helpful is just to get a little ultralight bag full of all your junk and stick it in that one little bag. This right here is a perfect example of a little ultralight bag to carry all the junk. This is a cooking kit. I like to say real survivalists just bring ways to season the meat. Okay, so what I have in this little bag is salt, different ways to season meat, some caffeine sources, and olive oil for cooking, and then just some jangly stuff. Like if you want to throw a lighter in here, I don't know, maybe you've got some medication or something, and it's just kind of all over the place. You can put deodorant in here, whatever you've got. If you've got pocket litter or that random stuff, stick it in one little bag, and then you can just slide that bag right in that top pocket or put it wherever you want. If it's for cooking, you can stick it deeper in the bag, in the backpack. The value that we should mention of this is I got multiple backpacks. I don't want their pockets to be full of, you know, a lighter for this bag and a lighter for this bag and a lighter for this bag, because it just gets a little bit nuts. So put one or two lighters in here, put your food in here. All you have to do is pull this kit out of here and put it in there. That way, if you do have a bug out bag, you don't need a knife for each one of them. You don't need a whatever for each one of them. You need a kit for each one of them. So I can take my medical kit out and I can stick it in here. I can take my cooking kit out and I can stick it in here. So super valuable. Have those little ultralight bags and they're transferable to another bag. Okay, making a backpack fit your body. Super important. The first thing that you need to do is before you put it on, a lot of these shoulder straps will be adjustable up and down. You don't want this thing pushing in the back of your neck. So adjust it down until it's right below the muscle part of your shoulder, right here, okay? Then what I will do is I will loosen up the shoulder straps on both sides. Okay, they're loosened up right here in the front. And it will be nice and low. And I will pick it up, put it on my hip. I'll usually lean forward so that I can hold the weight forward. Okay, and then what I'm doing is I'm attaching and then tightening these up. Okay, now, as I was saying earlier, all the weight is being held by the hips, right? So now what I want to do is attach the chest strap. This has come loose, and you'll adjust this a little more often than not depending on how much you're breathing. So I'll attach the chest strap, and I will, usually because it's heavy, I'll pick it up and then slam that down. And if you notice, it's not really pushing down on my shoulders currently because there's not a lot of weight in it, but when there becomes weight, it'll start holding it down. And if there's a little bit of gap up here, that's okay, because the frame is holding the weight on my hips a lot more so than all of the weight being held down on my shoulders. If we start to add weight to it, right, and pulling down on it, it starts to come down on my shoulders. But the majority of the weight's being held by my hips. So it kind of feels almost like a spine board pushing from front to back, more so than pushing my shoulders down. Get that nice and tight. Now, on here, I'll usually inflate my lungs all the way. Make it stop. That's where you want to be. For women, move this up above, right on top. Inflate your lungs, make it snug, exhale. If you find that it's too loose, because these are sliding off your shoulder socket, right, because there's a little pocket right there, then tighten it up. If it's too tight, loosen it up. So recap on that is loosen everything up, tighten your hips, get them nice and snug, tighten your shoulder straps, and then adjust this to your lungs. The very last thing, if you adjust these upper straps right here, okay, now is the time to lock them down. It'll pull that load up on top of these poles right here, which are either in an internal frame or an external frame, the majority of your weight bearing, and it will bring your load forward, okay? So that's how I adjust it. To me, now we need to talk about how to adjust the load to the pack. So when I've got the load, right now this is a no load, right? So if I've got a load, I need to lock it down. So we'll use this even though there's nothing there. If I start tightening up these external straps, right? Zip this up. We'll do that on the other side. Okay, now even though there's nothing in this bag, it's tight, right? When you twist and move, it's not going to slap all over the place. So what I don't want to do is put my water on the outside of this, because then it's going to be slapping all over the place. It has a lot of force. As I turn, it swings like a pendulum, right? What we use this external bag for is quick access items or that lightweight stove. That water can go on the inside, right against my spine, right as tight as can be, because it's the most heavy item. So if it's closer to my center of gravity as I turn, it's not going to swing me. If it's further on the outside of my center of gravity, like some people will strap their water bottle out here or a Camelback out here, as you turn, the inertia initiates and it continues to want to make you turn, and you have to slow it down. You have to speed it up and slow it down. That's not bad in the short term, but after 2 or 3 days, it wears you down more and it makes it harder to function. So whatever you've got, tighten it all the way down. Make it super snug. Lock all of those things down. To show you with another bag, this guy right here, if I had a lighter load in it, what I would do is close these expanding vents on the side. Now that takes the whole bag and tightens it, and then I would lock down all of these side straps. So this one has these large removable side pockets. If I don't need them, I'm going to take them off. If I've got them, I'm going to zip it up and I'm going to lock them down tight. And then once you've got it all locked down tight and the top's locked down tight, same principles. Loosen up your straps, put your hips on first, make sure, so loosen up your straps, adjust this appropriate to the height of your spine, tighten up your hips nice and snug first, tighten up the shoulder straps, and then lock down these top ones as tight as they'll get, because that brings your load up and on top of you where it belongs, and then you're good to go. We talked about summer packs, fall packs, winter packs, the volumes of packs, how to adjust them, what to look for in the bags. Hopefully that was valuable to you. I've had a lot of questions about all sorts of topics. I'm going to try to address those topics, try to do some gear reviews, try to do a lot more primitive skills. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you for watching.